President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the keynote address on day 2 of the 20th AGOA Summit held in Nasrec. Right here in Johannesburg, day 1 got off to a positive start yesterday as US President Joe Biden revealed plans to extend the trade agreement beyond 2025. Now, participating African countries have been lobbying for the extension as expected to promote investment for the continent. Let's bring in now our reporter, eNCA's Rofhiwa Madzena, who's live in Nasrec this morning for us. And Rofhiwa, a very warm good morning to you. Sounds like the AGOA Summit has really started on a positive note in as far as those US-Africa trade relations are concerned. Let's start with context, perhaps with what happened yesterday.
A very good morning to you, Jamila, and of course a good morning to our viewers as well. Indeed, a summit that has started off on a positive note, just a showing of what the African continent can produce and export to the US market, but also other markets around the world. AGOA, of course, was something that was launched in 2000, and it was really just to give a trade advantage to African countries, to big markets like the United States, the biggest economy in the world, and really just allowing business to not only thrive in the local market but also on the global front as well. But we do have the spokesperson for the US Embassy in Pretoria, David Feldman. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And I want to start on that positive note. There is an exhibition center that we have on display throughout the forum over the next few days. And I just want to get your sense as to the capabilities of African businesses and what you've been able to see and gauge from them.
Yeah, thank you, Rofhiwa. Yeah, I spent a couple hours this morning going around the Made in Africa exhibition, and it's really inspiring to see not only the diversity of African nations that are represented, but the diversity of products. I think a lot of Americans would be surprised to see trucks and cars being manufactured, and Minister Patel made this point, wholly from African supply chains and then being exported to the United States. We expect things like fabrics, but a lot of Americans don't expect chemical manufacturing, full automotive, scientific research that's going on. So it is really a testament to how far so many of these African nations have come in the Africanization of those supply chains and industrial development. And I think it's really inspiring for what we can do together in the future.
Right. And let's talk a little bit about that future, because over the last 3 years, if it's not geopolitical developments, it was COVID-19, higher inflation and the pressures related to that. How important would a deal or a partnership like AGOA be going forward, given those challenges, and just to give that added platform to businesses that are looking to expand?
Yeah. Well, the platform is already there.
Yep.
I mean, if what we're talking about is kind of reauthorization or renewal, I think one of the key things that's going on right now is discussions on how can we improve AGOA. Reauthorization won't be reauthorization as is. So we are giving feedback to our legislative branch, to the U.S. Congress, on how can we make this better. And then, hopefully, if the legislation is reauthorized in a form that's more beneficial to all, then we can work on implementation. How can we improve the paperwork process to make it easier for small to medium enterprises, for women-owned businesses to participate and really export those products to the United States? So that's a lot of what we're here talking about over these next couple of days.
Yeah, and another thing that Minister Patel spoke about within that renewal is the inclusion of small and medium businesses. A lot of the businesses that have benefited from AGOA are the big energy-intensive businesses, and it's about changing the conversation or changing the way that it's structured to include those small businesses. How important is that for the United States, but also just keeping in mind labor related issues?
Yeah, it's very important, and I think a symbol of that importance is the participation of members of civil society and labor unions, both from African nations and the United States. So, for example, we have labor leaders from the steel workers in the United States, from the flight attendants union in the United States, coming out not really to engage. And it's inspiring to hear those American labor leaders talk about how much they're learning from unions like COSATU, from South African unions and African unions, about how we can improve the way that we do labor relations in the United States. So AGOA, even though it's offering duty-free access to African nations, it's really about an exchange of best practices and products and really culture. through kind of the lens of business.
What kind of conversations is the United States having when it comes to South Africa's involvement in BRICS and the development of the global South and a greater independence from the global West?
Yeah. So South Africa is a sovereign nation. It will make its own foreign policy decisions, and that's fine. South Africa is going to do what is in the best interest of its nation. The United States, like any other country, will do the same thing. I think what we focus on in these conversations, when we have areas of difference, we can talk through them. Mostly, we have areas of partnership and collaboration. Yeah. And that's what we're focusing on here, is really the constructive aspects and what we can achieve together.
Yeah. What kind of conversations then did you have with the likes of Uganda, Niger, the CAR, before they were excluded from the AGOA deal going forward, before that decision was made?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you take the example of Uganda, there were serious concerns over human rights related to the passage of an anti-homosexuality law that criminalized homosexuality. We expressed those concerns all the way through that process, so it's no surprise as to President Biden's decision. The same thing about there was a military coup in Niger. We expressed concerns leading up to that point, and we continue to express concerns and engage with the government. So none of that was terribly surprising. Some people have asked me about, well, do other nations, or in particular, I'm the mission spokesperson in South Africa, to have to worry about? I'm not worried about that here.
Yeah.
I don't. Those types of events that we saw in those countries, I just don't see happening in the South Africa that I've grown to know and love.
Yeah, and then just a final thought from you. Despite our energy issues, the water crisis that we have as well, are you confident that the direction that South Africa is going, particularly as we lead up to our elections next year, as the US also leading up to their own elections, that things are looking up and the outlook within AGOA, but generally for the country and its trade relations with the United States, is a positive one?
Yeah, look, if you want to know where South Africa is going, look at how the Springboks have done over the past month. And if you looked at the game against England, what was so inspiring about that is when they were behind, they didn't let them get that down. Yeah. They took a serious look at the challenges they had before them, and they found a way to win. So I would expect South African businesses and the South African people are going to do the same thing related to AGOA and really related to all their international trade. They're going to find a way to make this work. And the United States is here to partner with South Africa to get that job done.
Thank you very much, David, for joining us this morning. That is the U.S. Embassy's spokesperson for us this morning, David Feldman, joining us to speak about the forum that is happening. Started yesterday, Dumelo, and of course this is the second day. Optimistic about trade relations between South Africa and, of course, the United States, but also the rest of Africa and the opportunities that exist between the two continents. But also, it's also about, Dumelo, just extending the capabilities that we have locally, and not just to the U.S. market, but showing that it's something that we can offer to the world at large. And these are the kind of conversations that we're going to continue to have throughout the day today.
Forward to hearing how they will pan out, and thank you so much, Rofhiwa, for bringing us this conversation to the fore with regards to how AGOA is currently going this morning. It's day 2. Yesterday, it's seemingly starting on quite a positive note between the two continents in as far as their trade relations are concerned. It seems that the challenges are acknowledged in as far as the issues that both countries may have, but the intention is clear that trade relations must continue and to the benefit of both continents' residents. All right.